In 2018, the only game in town revealed what actually happened when North Ayrshire Council embarked on a public-private partnership project to build and maintain 4 new schools. The film showed the council only ever had one credible and viable bid for its £380 million project. A second bid, which the council claimed provided genuine competition, actually came from a newly formed company with no accounts, no office, and no experience in building or maintaining schools. The company, Comprehensive Estate Services Limited, also claimed to be a subsidiary of a major Singapore-based construction corporation. This was a lie. The only game in town also revealed that a police investigation into the North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP project had lasted just 2 weeks, before being passed to the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Service, with a report stating the police could find no evidence of criminality. The Crown Office agreed, and the matter was dropped. This film takes up the story from where the only game in town ended. North Ayrshire, on the west coast of Scotland, isn't short of beautiful scenery and is home to some relatively prosperous towns. But the area also has a number of communities where levels of poverty and unemployment are among Scotland's highest. A situation that isn't helped by local taxpayers being burdened with a PFI PPP bill that sees them fork out over £1 million every month to pay for just 4 schools. The PFI PPP deal, agreed by Labour councillors in 2006, means North Ayrshire taxpayers will be paying £1 million a month to a group of private companies until 2038. The shocking facts revealed in the only game in town about North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP contract and the resulting £1 million a month bill caused concern amongst some North Ayrshire councillors. That resulted in a motion being tabled to a meeting of the full council, where the councillors wanted answers, and they asked the Chief Executive to write to Police Scotland asking that a new and thorough police investigation be carried out. The motion was tabled by the SNP councillor for Ardrossan-Adarn, Tony Gurney, and was seconded by Saltcoats Independent councillor Rony McNichol.
All of the documentation, all of the evidence shows very clearly that when this was put out to tender, there was only one company that could reasonably have actually fulfilled the contract. That is not a good way to have any sort of procurement, let alone a piece of procurement spending a lot of public money. I thought it was important to bring that to a wider audience and to ensure that something was done to check into those revelations.
But, before the motion was even heard, the then Chief Executive, Elmer Murray, tried to persuade councillors there was no need to discuss the content of the motion, or to officially ask the police to investigate.
So just a couple of points in relation to the film by MacAulay Gibson Productions. I have had some discussion with local police colleagues when the motion came forward, and they have offered for the Police Scotland's Economic Crime Unit to come and meet with members who are concerned about this matter directly, so that they can look at the film, discuss any issues in relation to evidence or matters that may have arisen from their earlier investigation, and start to take it forward on that basis.
The Labour leader of the council, Councillor Joe Cullinane, supported the Chief Executive in what appeared to be a coordinated move to prevent councillors from officially asking Police Scotland to investigate the local authority's PPP scheme.
We heard from the Chief Executive that we've got an offer from Police Scotland to come and meet with us. I think, given the feedback that the Chief Executive has had, with our discussions with Police Scotland, a letter writing process is just extending the period before we can get that meeting, and I think that Council today should take up the offer from Police Scotland to get their economic crime unit down, and any members who do have questions or concerns arising from the documentary can then raise that with those officers at that moment in time.
Councillor Gurney did not accept the preemptive intervention.
What we have to remember here is that we have a Labour administration who do not want anyone looking into previous Labour administrations. Many of the Labour administration in North Ayrshire Council were a part of the administration that gave these contracts. So I'm not in the least surprised that Labour do not want anybody going anywhere near these things.
The SNP councillor also expressed concern over the contribution of the Chief Executive.
I would have hoped that she would have taken more notice of the allegations. I would have hoped that she would have, even if she had not believed them, wanted to ensure that people could be reasonably expected to say whether or not these allegations were true. To try to sweep any sort of allegation under the carpet is a bad look for any organisation, let alone one that depends on public trust to keep working.
Undeterred, Councillor Gurney and Councillor McNichol were determined their motion should be heard.
I want to be clear that this is not an exercise in finger pointing. What it is an attempt to reach the truth. Anyone who's watched the documentary will have heard the allegations made. I don't know whether those allegations are true, and nor, I would suggest, does anyone else in this chamber. That's why it's important they're investigated. Not internally, as that would simply invite further allegations, and certainly not informally, because that would do exactly the same. The people of North Ayrshire deserve a comprehensive investigation of these allegations because it's the right thing to do. They are serious allegations and deserve a serious response. When North Ayrshire Council finally announced First Class Consortia as its preferred bidder, the Council issued a news release which stated that the value of the contract to build and maintain 4 schools in North Ayrshire was £80 million. When the contract was finally signed in 2006, the Council's news release did not refer to the value of the contract. However, Hochtief, the German construction company which signed the North Ayrshire contract on behalf of First Class Consortia, also issued a news release. That one confirmed the value of the contract as being €550 million, or £380 million. The latest figures reveal that the total unitary charge paid to the contractor is as follows. The payments made between 2007 and 8 to 2016-17 is £107,068,624. The estimated total payments for this year is £12,607,315. The estimated future payments till 2037-38 when the contract finishes is £275,597,000, all of which gives an estimated total cost to the public of £395,272,939. This motion asks for a new and thorough police investigation into the procurement of North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP project. There is overwhelming evidence that all was not above board. The people of North Ayrshire require and deserve the truth, and that finally justice is done.
SNP councillor Alan Hill, a lawyer by profession, made a very important point.
One for the leader. I mean, I don't know if he's watched the documentary it's referred to. I can obviously appreciate Councillor Miller hasn't, although the papers have been out for over a week. But if he has watched the documentary, obviously there are some quite serious allegations made in there. There's a huge difference between the police coming in and investigating those and confirming whether there's any substantive proof to any of them, and Police Scotland coming in to answer a couple of questions that I or others might have about something that they've not investigated in the first place.
So after further debate, the motion was carried by 18 votes to 11, and the Chief Executive was instructed to write the Chief Constable of Police Scotland asking that a new and thorough investigation be carried out into the council's procurement of its PPP schools contract. When the votes were counted, it was shown that only Labour councillors and one independent had wanted to block a new investigation.
The day following the council meeting, then Chief Executive Elma Murray did as she had been instructed by councillors. She wrote to the Chief Constable of Police Scotland, Ian Livingston, copying to him the motion passed by council, referencing the allegations made in the only game in town, and adding, "Accordingly, I would be grateful if you could confirm that you would be able to commence an investigation into the allegations made in the film." But Chief Constable Livingston wasn't interested in a new investigation. Responding, he wrote, "I am content that a proper investigation was carried out in 2006, and the evidence presented was considered and was not ignored by Strathclyde Police. It was following this investigation that Crown Counsel advised that on the basis of the information available, there was insufficient evidence to institute criminal proceedings." Chief Constable Livingston concluded, "No further evidence which may support a review of the initial circumstances has been established." So, despite a majority of North Ayrshire councillors requesting that Police Scotland carry out a new and thorough investigation into the local authority's multi-million-pound schools PPP project, the Chief Constable decided to rely primarily on the already discredited investigation and Crown Office decision of 2006. Police Scotland declined to carry out a new investigation. Rony McNichol, himself a former police officer, had good cause to be concerned that Police Scotland had based its decision on the supposed investigation of 2006.
We were informed by the detective sergeant that there never was a police inquiry done. In fact, he stated at my home that we had been watching too much Taggart.
Tony Gurney also expressed his concerns over the police decision.
Any large organisation who carries out any sort of investigation is minded to believe its own outcomes. And that's not surprising, I can understand that. But those investigations took place well over a decade ago, and I'm not convinced that they had all the evidence that was required during those investigations. That was part of the reason I helped to bring the motion to Council to ask Police Scotland to reinvestigate, to show Police Scotland that we in the Council, who are responsible for this contract, were minded to look into this contract again and to see whether there was anything else that needed checked on. They would have had that assurance that this wasn't just some random member of the public, some random blog. This was a set of councillors who, in a motion at Council, passed a motion to say, we want you to look into this again. And I'm very disappointed that the investigation, certainly to my untutored eye, looked to be less than complete. It seemed very much as though they wanted it to go away as quickly as the Labour Party did.
When we received the news that Police Scotland had decided they would not carry out a new investigation into their procurement of the North Ayrshire Schools PPP project, we contacted the force and asked some questions, primarily how they had reached this decision. The officer who responded was Detective Chief Inspector Jim Robertson of the Economic Crime Unit, based here at the National Force's relatively new headquarters in Gartcosh. The Economic Crime Unit was formerly the Fraud Squad, the department that claimed to have carried out an investigation back in 2006. In an email exchange, DCI Robertson told us he had contributed to the decision by watching the only game in town, and he claimed he'd carried out a review of the paperwork from the 2006 investigation. Now, this statement immediately caused some concern for us because before we made the only game in town, we had submitted a Freedom of Information request to Police Scotland, asking for copies of all correspondence and reports held by the force in relation to the 2006 investigation into the procurement of the North Ayrshire Schools PPP project. In response to our FOI request, Police Scotland stated, "Your request for information was considered and I can advise you that Police Scotland does not hold any of the information requested by you." The police response added, By way of explanation, in accordance with Police Scotland's retention schedule, correspondence relating to inquiries are held for the current year plus 6 years. So, Police Scotland told us it did not have any correspondence or reports relating to the 2006 investigation into the North Ayrshire PPP deal. According to the police, all such documents had been destroyed in 2013. As laid down in Freedom of Information legislation, we then asked Police Scotland to carry out a review of its decision on our FOI request. Some weeks later, we got the outcome of the police review, which stated, "On receipt of your review request, I instructed further searches, both electronic and manual, to be undertaken within the Ayrshire Police Division and by our Records Management section. I can confirm that no relevant material was identified." The fourth statement added, "Police Scotland's retention schedule for correspondence relating to inquiries is held for the current year plus 6 years. This period relates to all material held for a standard crime inquiry, whether it is resolved or unresolved, and irrespective of format, paper, electronic or other." So, twice Police Scotland told us, in writing, that it did not have any correspondence or reports relating to its claimed 2006 investigation into the North Ayrshire Schools PPP project. But Detective Chief Inspector Robertson told us he had used these documents, the documents we had requested, when he carried out a review of the 2006 investigation. Clearly, someone wasn't telling the truth, and at this point we thought it best to request a face-to-face meeting with DCI Robertson so we could clarify how he had managed to use documents the force claimed to have destroyed in 2013. In order to secure evidence which could not be secured by other means, we covertly recorded our meeting with DCI Robertson. This is what he told us at the meeting.
And the first time it cut across my desk was, I think it was in relation to a Freedom of Information request that was put in. And I'm trying to think of who dealt with it. Was it Brian Shaw, the Chief Inspector in Ayrshire, and Paul Main, who's the Chief Super, and he's the Commander. They kind of held that inquiry, if you like, or the requests that come in. And eventually, I think through corporate communications, somebody came to me and says, "Do you know anything about the subject matter of this?" Now, I have the Economic Crime and Financial Investigation Unit, which would be the programme to that was the Fraud Squad, staff like this. Now, I've been in this department in the west of Scotland and the Strathclyde Police as it was now about 9 or 10 years now. Can't go back, obviously, to when it happened. So what we have is electronic diaries.
Right.
And it's a mix of electronic diaries, scanned copies, going into electronic diaries and then paper copies. The data safe and all the rest of it can go away 6 years, destroyed. Obviously just depends. So kind of hit and miss at times if you go way back, because we get this quite often where people are coming and asking and are kind of resurrecting an old inquiry, for want of a better word, and it's kind of hit and miss for there's stuff there. So it could have been the case that everything that we said or alleged or whatever, Police Scotland would maybe not have anything left, but as it stood, we did. It was an electronic diary. So I was then able to review what we held in relation to the Freedom of Information request, and that was dealt with. And sometimes Freedom of Information requests, and forgive me if you know even better than I do, is you either get it or you'll know, but it'll hit the purpose for getting it, or if it's a live inquiry, it's not. And there's certain things that if you're taking money statements, they're restricted when completely just never be released. Never use your money statement. Why would you give to somebody who's got, especially if the inquiry is a financial account or police reports, you name it, some things are disclosable and allowed to be released. Maybe a description of what's there can be released under the Freedom of Information request. So that kind of sat after that was done, and then I'm just trying to tell you how I come into this. after the freedom of information request, because I held the information and my department held the information, I kind of put my marker on it and says, look, no point in one bugging Ayrshire division with us, or corporate communications, or freedom of information with us. Anything else that comes in relation to these matters, to tell them up to me.
DCI Robertson made clear that when he identified his department actually held the paperwork we had requested, he told his police colleagues in other relevant departments. From the senior officer's comments, it was clear Police Scotland had not told the truth when it responded to our Freedom of Information request and in the subsequent review of its decision. We drew this matter to the attention of Scotland's Information Commissioner, who carried out an investigation, at the conclusion of which the report stated, "The Commissioner finds that the Chief Constable of the Police Service of Scotland, Police Scotland, failed to comply with Part 1 of the Freedom of Information Scotland Act 2002 in responding to the information request. Police Scotland failed to identify information covered by the request and wrongly gave notice under Section 17.1 of the Freedom of Information Scotland Act that it did not hold any information. In so doing, it failed to comply with Section 1.1 of the Freedom of Information Scotland Act. Given that Police Scotland has now identified information that falls within the scope of the information request and that it is seeking to withhold this information under various exemptions, the Commissioner has required Police Scotland to issue a revised outcome in terms of Section 21.4b of the Freedom of Information Scotland Act." So the Commissioner found Police Scotland had not told the truth when it said they didn't have the paperwork we had requested. Now though, the force was coming up with other reasons to withhold the paperwork. So we waited for the new response that the Commissioner had ordered Police Scotland to provide us with. Eventually, it arrived, and it said, "On completing this revised review, I am content that a total of 11 documents are held by Police Scotland that meet the terms of your request. In relation to the 11 documents identified, I have now considered this material and its suitability for disclosure, and would advise that 7 documents are considered to be completely exempt from disclosure. In the remaining 4 documents, some information is suitable for disclosure, and as such I substitute our original response for a partial disclosure." So eventually we got 4 documents, actually just 5 pages, from Police Scotland. These are the documents. Very heavily redacted, in fact so heavily redacted they provide no useful information. You really have to wonder what Police Scotland don't want the public to know. We then asked the Information Commissioner to carry out an investigation into Police Scotland have apparently lied, not just to us but also to the Commissioner's office. The Commissioner responded, indicating that lying to his office was in fact a potential criminal matter, and as the Commissioner's staff don't have authority to interview people under caution or to charge people with an offence, the investigation would have to be carried out jointly by the Commissioner and Police Scotland. In effect, Police Scotland investigated their own actions. It took them 6 months, or at least they didn't respond for 6 months, after which the Information Commissioner confirmed that Police Scotland had concluded its investigation and found no evidence to substantiate criminality. However, the Commissioner noted that as a consequence of the investigation, Police Scotland had identified a number of recommendations for improvement. Presumably, those recommendations for improvement might include how to carry out a cover-up without getting caught.
In 2005, North Ayrshire Council's schools procurement process was overseen by a project board, which had just 3 Labour councillors as members. The rest of the board was made up of unelected council officials and civil servants from the then Scottish Executive's Financial Partnerships Unit. The minutes of the project board from October 2005, secured under Freedom of Information legislation, reveal how little control North Ayrshire councillors had over their multi-million-pound PPP project and how little they actually knew about the deal they agreed. One of the councillors on the PPP board, David O'Neill, who was the elected leader of the Labour administration, asked if elected members could see the final business case for the deal they were being asked to agree. However, Jim Tulips, an unelected council official, is recorded in the minutes telling Councillor O'Neill that the final business case was for the information of the project board only, adding, "It would only be publicly available after financial close.
At financial close, the councillors did not know the detailed terms of the contract, and we're talking a minimum of £380 million. Certainly if I had been a councillor at the time, I would have insisted that the full council see the full terms of the contract, the detail of the contract.
When the decision was made, they should have known all the facts as relating to the PPP contract. We certainly have evidence to say that they didn't know the full facts of the contract.
But the fact that Labour did not see this contract, the fact that they signed it without knowing what was in it and what would happen and what the consequences would be, I'm not in the least surprised. I'm just really angry.
Another Freedom of Information request, submitted to the then Scottish Executive's Financial Partnerships Unit, based here at Victoria Quay in Edinburgh, revealed the extent to which North Ayrshire Council was kept in the dark about its own schools PPP project, and also who did actually run the operation, and it certainly wasn't North Ayrshire Council. The Financial Partnerships Unit was a Scottish executive department whose publicly stated remit was to make sure the public received value for money from all of the PFI and PPP contracts signed by councils and health boards. In reality though, the Financial Partnerships Unit was the organisation that pushed PFI PPP to public bodies. It was the Financial Partnerships Unit which told councils and health boards that if they wanted to build new schools or hospitals, the only funding method available, the only game in town, was the Private Finance Initiative, which latterly became public-private partnerships. Once councils and health boards were signed up to PFI PPP, the Financial Partnerships Unit issued instructions on how procurement operations should be run and how deals should be done. The Freedom of Information request submitted to the Financial Partnerships Unit regarding North Ayrshire Council's Schools PPP project produced a number of documents, mostly general correspondence between civil servants and council officials. However, one particular document stood out. This was an email exchange dated July the 25th, 2005, between Jane Broderick, at the time a senior research officer within the Scottish Executive's Public Service Performance and Improvement Division, and Mr Sandy Rosey, who back then was a senior official in the Financial Partnerships Unit. Ms Broderick referred to an article that had appeared in the previous day's Sunday Herald newspaper, in which a member of the Scottish Parliament had raised concerns over North Ayrshire Council's PPP project and the bids submitted for the contract, particularly the one from the newly formed Comprehensive Estate Services. Ms Broderick's email informed Mr Rosey that another civil servant was to meet the next day with Mr Ian Snodgrass, then Chief Executive of North Ayrshire Council, and Miss Broderick asked, "Can you please advise whether there is anything else she needs to know? Any significant sensitivities or lines to take?" In response, Sandy Rosey told Ms Broderick that the Financial Partnerships Unit was handling business on this case, and so his advice to the civil servant due to meet with the Chief Executive of North Ayrshire Council was, "The less said to the Council, the better." Just to be clear, the exclamation mark at the end of that sentence was Mr Rosey's, not ours. He was making absolutely clear that as little information as possible should be made available to North Ayrshire Council about the local authority's own multi-million-pound PPP deal. There is one other significant point in relation to this issue. In Jane Broderick's email to Sandy Rosey, she names the civil servant who was to meet with the Chief Executive of North Ayrshire Council and who was told, "The less said to the Council the better." The then middle-ranking civil servant was named as Leslie Evans. Since then, Leslie Evans has advanced her career in the civil service. In fact, she is now the head of the civil service in Scotland and permanent secretary to the Scottish Government. There is one other very important issue we need to look at regarding the scandal that is the North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP project.
We know the Labour-run council signed up to a PPP contract to build and maintain 4 schools. We also know the actual cost of building the schools was around £80 million, with a 30-year maintenance contract adding a further £300 million to the taxpayers' bill. But we heard earlier from independent councillor Rony McNichol that the estimated total cost to North Ayrshire taxpayers is now around £390 million, and it could be even higher by the time the contract ends in 2038. Currently, North Ayrshire Council is paying just over £1 million every month to service its PPP debt. So, who does this money go to? If you ask North Ayrshire Council who they pay the £1 million a month to, they'll tell you it goes to a company called PPP Services North Ayrshire Limited, and that would be correct. PPP Services North Ayrshire Limited does receive £1 million a month from North Ayrshire Council, but the company doesn't keep the money. In fact, PPP Services North Ayrshire Limited was set up specifically to receive payments and pass them on to the companies that actually own the very lucrative North Ayrshire PPP contract. Ownership of PPP contracts tends to change in what are known as secondary markets. These contracts make a lot of money for shareholders, so they're valuable commodities. At one time, part of the North Ayrshire PPP contract was owned by a Spanish construction company whose top official was also the president of European football giants Real Madrid. Now, at the time of making this film, the North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP contract has 3 shareholders. These are the companies that actually receive the £1 million a month from North Ayrshire taxpayers. 20% of the contract is owned by NordLB, which is Norddeutsche Landesbank. So why would a German bank want to own shares in 4 North Ayrshire schools? Well, the answer to that question is very straightforward. They make a lot of money from it. In addition, HICL Infrastructure owns 25.5% of the North Ayrshire PPP contract, and the largest current shareholder is 3i BIFM Limited with 54.5%. You may remember the sensational revelations a few years ago when the Panama Papers were made public. These were documents leaked from a company called Mossack Fonseca, a Panama-based legal firm and provider of corporate services. The Panama Papers revealed 11.5 million documents detailing 214,488 offshore entities used by companies to minimise or avoid paying taxes in the countries in which they actually do business. The parent organisations of HICL and 3i are currently amongst the top offshore listed infrastructure funds. Between 2011 and 2017, 3i Infrastructure plc declared profits of £911.8 million but paid just £700,000 in taxes. HICL Infrastructure Company Limited managed to beat that. Over the same period, they posted profits of £944.9 million, but thanks to a credit agreement with tax authorities, the company actually paid no tax on their almost £1 billion profit. In The Only Game in Town, we showed how North Ayrshire Council only ever had one credible and viable bid for its multi-million pound PPP contract, but insisted another bid provided genuine competition, even though the second bid came from a recently formed company with no accounts, no office, no experience in building schools, and which had lied in its bid submissions. We also revealed how a supposed police investigation in 2006 had actually lasted just 2 weeks, before being passed to the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Service with a report stating the police could find no evidence of criminality. In this film, we have exposed the continuing cover-up and the establishment efforts to prevent a proper and thorough investigation into the North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP project. Now, you might question, why would North Ayrshire Council, Police Scotland, the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Service and the Central Government Civil Service all collude in a cover-up about a project to build 4 schools? The answer to that question is simple. It isn't about 4 schools in North Ayrshire. If a proper and thorough investigation was carried out into what we have revealed about the North Ayrshire Council Schools PPP contract, the outcome would inevitably lead to questions being asked about every other PFI PPP contract in the UK, and if that were to happen, we are then talking about billions of pounds of taxpayers' money being directed into the bank accounts of organisations that largely offshore their profits to avoid paying tax, and all for schools and hospitals that are worth only a fraction of the money taxpayers are forking out for them. PFI PPP is a scandal. It's a scandal that sees taxpayers fleeced by big business and the complicity of senior public servants who are supposed to work in our interests. It's a scandal that sees some people becoming very, very rich at our expense. It's a scandal that needs to end. Those responsible must be held to account, and that includes those still actively working to cover up one of the biggest ever rip-offs of public money. Your money.